Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's story. Hope you can all hear me okay. And let's make this happen. Looks like we are recording. And hopefully I'm not frozen. Ping me if I am. Thank you, Sean Donnelly and T&D Tesla, for coming. Let's talk about what's going on in the world today. Well, this is slipping and sliding all over the place. It's Thursday. The crypto market cap literally is like 2.12 trillion again. It's been at this level for weeks now. It's like, I shouldn't even bother saying what it's at. There's a little bit of good news. Well, there's one big bombshell we'll look into. Also, we'll talk about the Bitcoin German reserves. They're dwindling. There's very little left, which is good news. And a massive 10-for-1 stock split. What else is going on? I can't remember what the fear and greed is. I think it's 29. I'm not sure. But that's the good news. Let's jump into the whole story. Do travels. Thank you. And yeah, welcome to today's story. This is not financial advice. Shout out to everybody on Patreon as well for making this happen. From Ryan Petty. Hi, James and Mods. Hope you're good. Loving the support I get from my Patreon and these videos. Such a pleasure. And thank you to everybody behind the curtain. Make this happen every day. Let's check out Bitcoin monthly returns. What is really stunning to me is there's been nearly 50,000 Bitcoin dumped on the market by one player in a very short window of time. And yeah, there was an initial dip, but since then, the dumping has been incessant and the price has been stable. And that is, I think, for me, a very bullish sign. The monthly return for July is down 7.6%. It was as bad as about 8.3%, 8.5%. Now it's only 7.6%, so not too bad. Let's get into a little bit of the news and then a ton of charts, including a brand new one as well, inspired by Mando. First of all, the big news, MicroStrategy announced a 10-for-1 stock split. That's going to happen on August 7th, so you need to be in the position on the 6th of August to get that. And I don't even know if the 6th of August is a Sunday or whatever. If it is, then you got to go to the 4th. Remember that, but that is going to be big. And as you know, I have been a big investor in MicroStrategy since 2020. Actually, I've invested in MicroStrategy before I even started my first YouTube video. That's how long ago it's been around. And in full disclosure, a little bit of a mea culpa here. I've known about this stock since the .com era when it went to the moon. Michael Saylor never split the stock back then. And now he's doing it, which is interesting. And let's talk about the chart. This is MicroStrategy divided by Bitcoin chart. Hey, The Great Escape, thank you for coming. Over there in the UK, what's bonkers is year to date, MicroStrategy has outperformed Bitcoin by 100%. And it's to the ire of many that don't quite understand the infinite money glitch. But here we are. Up, dip, down, up, sell signal, down, up. Follow the trend. The trend keeps you in the trade. That's a kind of key. So what will this split mean? A couple of things. First of all, if you have options contracts, which I have a ton of, for every one contract you have, you'll have 10. Second of all, the price will go from, say, $1,500 down to $150, which will make it easier for many retail investors to buy. For some, it's difficult to drop $1,500 in every share. So that will bring in a little bit more liquidity. It'll also mean the index funds need to buy a lot more. The liquidity will increase, the float will increase, all goodness. The fundamentals don't actually change, but it should drive the price up a little bit. It's already up on the day. In fact, let me check. Bitcoin has been very resilient despite the dump, and MicroStrategy is up. It was up as high as 6% today, up to 1432. Now it's about 1360, up over $50. So very, very impressive run. And it's for those who use Arb Cloud. Yesterday I posted in the community that it was under the cloud, which is normally a buy signal. It still is at the bottom level of the cloud. So hold tight there. Now, this is a cool piece from Bitcoin News, and it talks about how the writing is on the wall. I kind of love that for those to see. All over the world, Santa Monica, California, that's top left corner, to Frankfurt, Germany. It's interesting. Frankfurt, Germany is here to study Bitcoin, while Germany, Saxony, is selling Bitcoin. And then you have Prague, beautiful city, Praha. Shout out to the Czechs out there. And then Warsaw, Poland, at the bottom right. It's really becoming quite the global phenomenon. And it's becoming quite popular to embrace Bitcoin. That's all I'll say on that topic. But yeah, embrace or die, as I've always said too. Let's talk about some of the things as to why we embrace Bitcoin, because we need it as a life raft. Shout out to the USA. The interest bill over the last 12 months is now $1.1 trillion and is heading to $1.5 trillion. Yes. Yes. Do you know what you can do with $1.5 trillion? You build pretty much every school and hospital in the country. But no, let's just spend it on interest. Why not? Why not? And another great news too. If you were not scared, you should be now. We're heading to 35 trillion in US national debt. But that's not the real problem. You add the national debt plus the unfunded liabilities, you're north of $250 trillion. Okay? That's $1.75 million of debt for every taxpayer in the US. I'll repeat that. If you pay taxes in the US, you are going to be burdened with $1.75 million in debt. And for some people, that may not be a lot. For others, in their whole working lives, they'll never be able to repay that. So it's a very bizarre situation. So if that doesn't scare, so people are always asking me, can you create like a nugget or a bullet point or something to convince the loved one to get into Bitcoin? It's right there. Right there. Now, this is shout out to Javier, the genius of money printing. Not if printing money could end poverty, printing diplomas could end stupidity. I love that. And it's probably not the first time I've used that. I'm not sure. I may have used it once before, but it's just something we need to keep referring to. Okay, I understand that as well. Having a diploma, printing a diploma doesn't make you smarter. All right, let's talk about as well what the SEC is doing. Gary Gensler's Securities and Exchange Commission continues its theatrics. The same day, the White House hosted all the crypto gurus in a big round table. The SEC Director of Enforcement posts an old April 2023 Scorched Earth anti-crypto speech and adds an epilogue to update it for all their enforcement since. These guys just are not giving up. Somebody needs to tell them being anti-crypto, yes, and I'm very aware that 99% of crypto is a scam, and you should all be aware too. But it wraps up some of the good stuff in there too. And crypto is coming. As I say, embrace or die. You can't be without it. Even people like Larry Fink at BlackRock understand that better than anybody. So what the SEC is up to, they're just giving the current regime a bad name, which is not good for that. Now, a bit of good news, though, as well. From Mohammed El Arian, US CPI inflation came in lower than consensus forecasts across the board. Monthly headline inflation for June was down 0.1, and the consensus forecast was plus 0.1. That's a 20 basis point delta, which is pretty good. Annual measures down to 3%. Core came in at 0.1% and 3.3%. And this will encourage, as we've been talking about for a long time, at least a couple of weeks, there is going to be an 80% chance of a rate cut happening in September, just in time for the elections, which should be good. Let's get into some charts. First of all, Deutschland, fast Leer, which means almost empty. They have almost nothing left. And when this article was written 5 or 6 hours ago, they had 765 million left. Now there's only 400 million left. They're dumping this thing hand over fist, literally as quickly as they possibly can. And it's not really rattling the Bitcoin price. So I find that extremely bullish. But this is a shout out to people in Germany. Many of you are watching the show right now. The hopes of a Bitcoin future are a little bit dashed, at least in Saxony. Maybe not in Frankfurt, though, because Frankfurt, they understand money. And that's why we had that picture of the building here in Frankfurt in the top right corner. Boom. Study Bitcoin. There you go. So we'll see. Let's jump back into a couple more charts. This is proof of how fast they are dumping Bitcoin. Now they're down to 4,000 Bitcoin left, 48,000 dumped in a very short window of time. And the market took it like a champ. Took it like a champ. That is pretty incredible. They have, again, approximately 250 million left. And given the rate of dumpage of, thousands of Bitcoin, hundreds of Bitcoin every few minutes, it's going to be gone probably by tomorrow. and then we can wipe the sweat from our brow and move on with our lives, which is good news. Now, because of a couple of things like Mt. Gox, like Germany dumping, etc., we have this situation now. This is from Glassnode. Shout out to Sanjay as well. If we look at the performance indexed to the date of the Bitcoin halving, we can see that the current cycle is the worst performing cycle ever. Okay. The purple one there, I think was, let me make sure I read this correctly. Gonna have to zoom in to see it. I think it was Epoch 3. We were down exactly 7% at this stage of the post-halving run. This current Epoch number 5, we're down 13%. Last one, despite C19, that was up 30% at this stage. And of course, Epoch number 2 was up 117% at this stage. So when you add in all these little data points of how strong Bitcoin is, considering the huge dumpage, where we are based on history, the money flows, etc., it's really holding up very well, and it's very, very resilient. So I take this as a bit of a positive. And this is the big story of the day. Excuse the pun, Justin Sun enters $500 million long. This is from Ki Jong-yu from Crypto Quant. And the HTX whale was Justin Sun, opened a long Bitcoin at 67,000. And this was funded by $460 million worth of STUSDT, which is his stablecoin project. And apparently it pays a big APY or something. And I'm not going to talk about the CCP or his stablecoin or anything else, but that is one hell of a Bitcoin long to put on $500 million. So, and Justin Sun kind of knows the space. Justin Sun was the same person, by the way, who offered Germany to buy their bag at a higher price than they sold it for. Think about that. Imagine you want to sell a car for $70,000. Say, you know what? No, I'd rather take $55,000. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, moving on. He's not the only one getting bullish. Mr. 100 grabs another 700 Bitcoin over the last 48 hours. He's not the only one to be buying as well. The precision of the 100 Bitcoin buys is back. Sometimes it was 107, 108, sometimes 212. But now it's back to 101, 102, 100, 102, 101, 100, 101. Very precise, and buying much of this at exactly the 57.5 level, which is pretty much where we're at right now. So Mr. 100's there. Now, I know the rumors are abound. Is it a sovereign out of the Middle East? Is it Michael Dell? We don't know yet. But again, I will stress for the 1,000th time, this is not the activity of a centralized exchange cold wallet. Okay, so I hope that's very, very clear. For those people that get a rate when they hear about Mr. 100, oh, it's just a cold wallet. No, it's not. We'll find out in time. Also, shout out to Mando as well. Inspiration for me creating this chart. This is the Coinbase Premium. And what I did was I overlaid the Coinbase Premium on top of the Bitcoin price chart. And what's super interesting, if you go back year to date, every time the Coinbase Premium was down and rebounded, guess what happened next? The price of Bitcoin rebounded. Coinbase Premium runs negative, price of Bitcoin spikes within a couple of days afterwards. And we are exactly at that stage now where we had, beginning of July, quite a negative Coinbase Premium, back to the same time we had in April, back to the same time we had in March, etc., etc. And afterwards, Bitcoin rallies. This is another little TA tool we can add, TA on-chain tool, I should say, we can add to our arsenal and monitor very carefully, not just trading off things like fear and greed, etc., mean reversion and all that good stuff, but this is a fascinating one. So let's see what happens in a couple of days. If this continues to work like clockwork, Coinbase Premium running negative, bouncing back to positive, price follows, we shall see. Interested to find that one out. Also, the rate cut odds spike to 83%. This is big for September, just in time for the elections, and after a pretty tame CPI number that we covered as well. And it also marks the first negative month-over-month inflation print since May 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, you could argue that deflation is coming in a little bit faster than expected. So we'll see. The question is, does the Fed have the green light to cut rates? I think, given the dovish tone of Jerome Powell yesterday and the day before, yes. Again, and the bond market doesn't lie. 83%. That's more than my 80% tipping point. That's pretty much confirmed. So watch the space. Bookmark this if you want. Let's talk about the black hole. Playlist will be here and at the end of the video. Let's get into some of the ETF numbers. What's also interesting, despite Germany dumping, somehow the ETFs recognize that this is a good level at which to buy. So some big names are jumping in as well. EZBC, which is Franklin Templeton, bought a big $32 million bag. That's nearly the biggest buy they've ever had in their history of this ETF. Fidelity, another 60 million. BlackRock, 22 million. Everybody was buying, with the exception of BTCW. And there was a slight dip from Grayscale, which is much smaller than normal. And BlackRock. BlackRock now own 313,000 Bitcoin, and they just tipped $18 billion worth. Remember, the price is low right now. Once Bitcoin price rebounds, that's going to shoot right above $22 billion worth of Bitcoin that they will be holding. And they'll probably be up at 350,000 Bitcoin within a month or two at this current clip. So that is a big bag. Shout out to Franklin Templeton. They had their second biggest day ever in the history on record, bringing in that 32 million. And the ETFs brought in 900 million in 4 days. And just for the record, by the way, that's less than Germany dumped. But the price stayed stable. That is the most remarkable thing this week. In fact, let's look at the Bitcoin price over the last 5 days just to make sure I'm not saying the wrong thing. It's actually up. It's up over the last 5 days. So if we go back to, like, the price last Friday was exactly 55,926. And then on Monday, it was down as low as 54.3. And now we are 57.5. So all in all, pretty good recovery. And yesterday, 2,544 Bitcoin were taken from the system. When you compare that to the dumpage out of Germany, that tells me somebody else is buying. So if you look 2,544, look at these dumps from Germany just over the past few hours. 400, 1,000, 500, 700, 2,000, 5,000, 200, 300, 500. They are big dumpages, and they're dumping them straight on exchanges. And the ETFs are buying a fraction of that. So the question is, who else is buying apart from the ETFs and Mr. 100? The answer is whales. And by the way, 2,544 Bitcoin is well over 5 times daily issuance from the actual Bitcoin miners. And final piece, we always keep an eye on Grayscale because that was the big source of Bitcoin for a long time. Now it's less so. Now it's Germany. What happens when Grayscale dries up? Germany dries up, and I still estimate only 7,000 to 10,000 Bitcoin will come out of Mt. Gox sales. And then we have all the money, all the liquidity coming in from FTX coming in too. So looks like this is definitely very close to a very solid bottom right now. Once all this stuff is flushed, again, 24 hours from now, at this current rate, Germany will be gone. And then it's off to the races for us. Thank you all for coming, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you as well. K8, TND Tesla, Sean Donnelly, and Rusty Bot, Andy, and people from all over the world, Cat with a K. And take care of yourselves. I'll see you all later. By the way, this afternoon, I'm recording with Cyber Bulls that will launch tomorrow morning. That'll be a Tesla-only video, but I'll be out of pocket for a couple of hours. Thank you all.